Hey folks, I think it's time for another Corvair race car resurrection status information video. I haven't done one for a while. Life has gotten in the way or given me opportunities to do other things. You can see in the back over my shoulder, over there, the race car is still waiting for a finished coat of paint. It's pretty much all ready to go. Paint-wise, the primer's all on. It looks good. It's nice and smooth. And I'm not sure if I'll be doing any painting over the winter. It's kind of difficult without having a regular paint booth. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm still shooting for next spring. I have been working on my other race car, just as an aside, the Miata. So it's also ready to go for next spring. So it'll keep me occupied when I'm not working on the Corvair. So what I want to talk about today mostly is building the motor, and specifically about what kind of tools and gadgets that I use to build it. And it's not that I'm a professional engine builder or maybe even an expert engine builder, and I don't even play one on the TV. So this is one of those caveats, these disclaimers that says, this is what I use, and I think it might be interesting to people who don't build engines, just to see what kind of stuff is used when an engine is being built. So that being said, let's go in my machine shop, my workshop, and look at some stuff. Okay, we're in my shop. Well, we're in my workshop, my machine shop, lathe milling machine, the whole stuff. Anyway, stuff I use, stuff that pretty much anybody that works on stuff, engines or whatever, that needs to be clean and accurately made. First thing, rubber gloves, disposable. It keeps the dirt off your hands, and it keeps, if you keep changing them, it keeps the dirt from one thing from getting on another thing. I use it when I'm painting. I use it when I'm working on the car. I use them when I'm working on the engine. I don't use them when I'm grinding, or I use heavier gloves for that. Next, simple, common sense. Paper towels or some sort of rag, microfiber rags that you wash a lot. Keep things clean. I use the paper towels for like essentially tablecloth stuff. I use them for wiping. Just keeping clean. All right, what else? Let's start at some stuff that I've already done. I'll pull this over. This is the case, as far as I've gotten. When I was building this, I may have mentioned that I degreed the cam. What does degreeing the cam mean? It means that using a depth dial gauge that measures the lift of the cam off a lifter, and a degree wheel where you can tell where your engine is, top dead center, bottom dead center, what degrees off. And this is just sitting here. I degreed this before all this stuff was on the engine. And what you do is you measure the lift using the gauge. And I made some tooling, piece of metal that I can stick the magnetic gauge on. And somewhere here, I don't know where it is, but I made a little pointer that bolts onto the engine so I can actually point accurately to what degree the engine is at. And you measure at where certain lift happens on the cam and what degree it happens in the engine. If you do that at many, many, many points, you have the full profile. What I did was I just measured it at the standard lift measurements in order to make sure that the cam was what it said it was. So I measured the lift at so many degrees and so many degrees, and it worked out. So I verified that the cam was good. And many years ago, I never did that. I guess I was lucky, because sometimes the cams are made off. So this cam is actually 30 years old, and it was made well 30 years ago, and it's in the car now. So that's that. Let me move this out of the way. All right, what else? Now, just so I wouldn't forget, I made a list. Let me see, what do we have? Simple things first. Plastigauge. People know generally what plastigauge is. It's little pieces like threads of waxy stuff that after you're pretty sure everything is right, clearance is inside the engine, mains and rod bearings, you lay this stuff on the journal and you bolt it all together and you see how much it's squished. And on the package, there's a little legend or whatever where you can match up your squished piece. You hold it up against it and it'll tell you what the clearance is. That's to verify you have the right clearances. Before I did that, I used bore gauges to make sure that anything that was supposed to be a certain size, like barrels, like the big and little ends on the rods, that stuff match the specs. I got a brand new one because I didn't have a good one. So you check that first, but after that you use plastigauge. What else do I have? Somewhere here. Here it is. A micrometer or a very accurate caliper. This is a Mitutoyo. They're really accurate. I've checked them against official micrometers. I use this for, I mic'd the crankshaft to make sure that it in fact was machined for 10 under. And I check everything I can. Everything that has a measurement, I check. And then I keep rechecking this against the micrometer to make sure it hasn't shifted. And I've been really lucky. This is a really good one. Really good in that it's accurate. Okay. And generally speaking, people might talk about tenths and thousandths. A tenth is a tenth of 1,000. So if there are 10,000 tenths in an inch, just so you know. Inches, then tenths, real tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and 10,000ths. So machinists, when they say tenths, they don't mean a tenth of an inch. They mean a tenth of 1,000th. That's pretty tight. That's pretty small. All right. So now the next thing I did was these are my pistons and barrels that I've had in the engine since it blew up in 2001. So I checked everything. I took them apart, took them out, and that segues into my next little bit of tool. Trays, plastic trays, where you can keep everything separate and everything organized. Normally I would write down the number on it, but interestingly enough, all my pistons have the number of the barrel punched inside them, so I don't have to, as long as I keep everything together. And some of you may recognize these and others not. These are full floating pistons. The rod goes through and is obviously loose, like or slips. And each side is on these are held in by a button. So the button goes on either side, and so it holds the piston in place. Sometimes the rod, the wrist pin. Sometimes there's a C-clip inside, but the pistons that I have use buttons. Now, what makes full floating different than factory ones is the fact that the wrist pin floats in the rod. So that is that. All right, now what's next? Let's see, I'm going to put that back. These are my new ones, by the way. The old ones had wear on them. So I'm going to put this back here for now. Next tool. I used to play around getting the rings off where I would fight with them and pull them out, and oh, it was just a pain. And then I realized they make a little tool. What you do, and I don't, do I have something here? Let's see. I'll just use an old ratty piston. When you want to get the rings off, you catch in the gap and you separate it and it comes right off. Really easy peasy. I actually had to modify these a little bit to fit exactly right for Corvairs, but they're good. What's next? Let's see. Other simple things. Loctite. It's not a tool per se, it's not a gadget per se, but Loctite blue, meaning you don't need heat to take it apart, holds bolts and nuts together better when there's vibration. This is 243 Loctite. It's a new version. The 242 is the older one. 243 works better when there's oil around. 242 Loctite, the blue Loctite everyone remembers from years ago, you had to get it really, really clean or it wouldn't grab really well. The 243 supposedly is much better. And that's really, if you see 242 around, it's old stock. 243 is the stuff they sell now. So that's Loctite. Let's see what else is on my list. This stuff. What I'm doing now is balancing the rods and the pistons. And to do that, you need a scale. So I bought this really expensive $20 gram scale. Actually, it goes down to 1/10 of a gram on Amazon. Seems to work pretty well. I have a better gram scale, electronic one, and they correspond. You know, they're the same weight. And this goes down to 1/10 of a gram. So if I want to balance it down to 1/2 a gram, so I need something more than just a 1 gram scale. So what you do is you want everything to be the same weight across all 6 pistons. So you weigh each, I weigh each piston separately, record all the weights. I weigh each rod. I weigh them without the nuts on them because I'm going to weigh the nuts separately and make sure they're all the same. I weigh the whole thing on the scale, record it, and I found that even though I thought I had balanced this 25 years ago, it's a couple of them are 1.5 grams or more off. So I'm going to redo everything. And you don't just weigh the connecting rod. That's what this gadget is. It's important because the small end that goes inside the piston goes up and down. That needs to be balanced. The big end rotates with the crankshaft. So that's rotational weight. So that has to be exact. So even if the whole rod is even if they're all equivalent, some might have heavier big ends and heavier small ends. So I weigh the whole thing, and then I go through, and I have made this, I made this gadget to hang them so I can weigh the small end, and then I turn it around and weigh the big end, and it's flexible like this, so there's no side play or the least amount of side play on the scale, so there's no friction. So the bottom line is you hang both ends, you weigh, you figure out what's what, and you weigh both ends, and then you get both ends to be the same as the other ends. And if you do that right, hopefully the the entire rod is the same weight across all 6. Some people weigh them with nuts on the end, but what I'm doing now is weighing them without the nuts, so that they're interchangeable if I drop them. And it's not a tool or a gadget, but what I do is I cut the nuts on these. These are long rods. These are not Corvair rods. The nuts are machined down, so I weigh and use the micrometer and make sure all the nuts are exactly the same size, machined down so they don't hit the case, because this is beefier than a regular Corvair rod. So I think that's about it for now. Oh, one more thing. Actually, a couple more things. If something is heavy, you have to take material out. And I've never had one before. I used to use just sandpaper and a file, but I bought Harbor Freight, of course. I bought a power belt sander, so that, and I'm gonna do it over here. I don't want to get grit anywhere near there. So if there's something I want to take weight off of, I can make it smooth as opposed to scratchy, because anything with a sharp edge on it could be a stress point. And these, and not these are dead, but especially race car rods get stressed a lot. So for the steel and for steel, I'm going to use this to take off little teeny bits of metal until they're exactly right. And for the pistons, because they're made out of aluminum, I have to take more material out of, and if I have to, I actually bought a brand new die grinder burr that's made for aluminum. I didn't have any carbide ones. I just had the old ones. And if I need to take some serious meat off of non-structural parts of the piston, that works better because they don't clog up. So that's the whole deal right now. I keep forgetting things. Flex hone. What I'm going to do when I put it back together, even though these are the same rings and the same pistons that were in it, I'm going to re-hone them to rough them up some more so that they seat even better than they did before. The engine blew up. It wasn't even a whole weekend of running, so it didn't get much time on it. It got the typical 20 minutes or so of break-in running it, and then practice and qualifying, and then it broke during the race at Mid-Ohio. So it did get revved. It probably is all broken in nicely, but I've never had a ball hone before. The old type hones had regular stones in them, and this is a ball hone, and you put in a drill and then you run it through there, and they work really well. They put a really nice crosshatch pattern, and they don't really hurt the cylinder at all, and they'll hopefully make it seal better, which will make it faster, maybe. I think that's it. So if you got any questions, let me know. Like I said, I'm not a professional engine builder. So there we go. I think that's it for now. Till next time.